Everybody's asking me when she's talking, everybody's asking me when I'm over there.
We don't want to set them up.
I
was just thinking about the hood.
Yeah, I know.
They're not
Yeah.
everything.
I didn't wait for
These
one.
three have been.
Okay, hey, we're,
That's what I'm saying.
we'll call the meeting to order. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Libby, please.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Libby?
Here.
Tanya?
Here.
Becky?
Here.
Robert? Here. Fritz?
Here. I declare we have a quorum. Can I get somebody to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. New business. Council to consider CF1 forms regarding tax abatement compliance for Taxman Brewing Company, Genesis Plastic Welding, and Thursday's Pool. Randy?
Sure. All right. Well, this kind of took me by surprise today when you got a hold of me. So let me just talk about the process for those that may not be familiar with it. So the tax abatement is granted, typically for a 10-year basis, declining scale of some sort. And as a part of that, when tax abatement is granted, when the application was made, the applicant puts together what's called a statement of benefits. And they say, well, we're going to invest this much money, it should assess at this, we should be hiring this many employees, the wages should look like this. And so that's sort of the inducement then for you to grant them tax abatement is what you're getting from that. By statute then, every year during the period of the abatement, there is a compliance form. That's what the CF1 stands for. That means compliance form 1 that gets filed each year. And they report back how they're doing relative to what they said on their statement of benefits. And then the process is, first of all, they're supposed to be in. This was great because they're due May 15th, and they normally get it in about May 15th, and here it is April, and these were here. I wasn't expecting that. Last year was a mess. The state even gave you until June 15th, and we had some coming in August. And I asked like the city council and the county council, I said, let's give some people some grace here. I said, probably the person that fills this form out has been furloughed, it's chaos. And so we thought they'd be more timely this year, but the fact that they got in front of that, that's just great. I will tell you that countywide, last year when I did the report, between the city of Greenfield, the county, the various municipalities, we have 78 active abatements. And out of 78, we had 75 that got theirs in. We had 3 that never filed their reportings and were found non-compliance. And one of them was here in Fortville. So the fact that, we'll be doing this for the next 3 months, chasing these down. So first of all, they're in, and is anyone here from TaxNet? Didn't think so. We certainly have Thursday Pools and Genesis Plastics here, but I just take these in the order you've got them. So if you have them in your package there, Taxman looks like it was received at the assessor's office on April the 2nd. And the one thing I can't tell you, that I've got a score sheet in the office, but haven't had a chance to check these out, is what year they're in. I feel like this is probably year 2 of 10. But if you look at the values on the front, that's where you're talking about what they estimated and what they ultimately had. So theirs is tricky because taxman is actually two different buildings put together, if you remember that. So on building one, they said the value of the proposed project would be $650,000. Building two, $650,000. That was the estimate. And then in fact, the assessed value did come out at $650 and $650. Net value after the completion of the project said $700 and $910. It was $720 and $838. So one's a little higher above and one's a little below. So the question is, whether you determine that they are in fact in substantial compliance, would be the suggestion or the ask, is on the back of the CF1, there's a place where you, as the abatement granting body, determine that the property is in substantial compliance or is not in substantial compliance. And then the reason for the finding if they are not in compliance. And then likewise, then there would be a motion and a vote for the council president to then sign off on the CF1, certainly if you find them in compliance, or if you find them non-compliance, then you need to set them for a hearing, give them notice for them to come in and show cause why they're not in compliance. Any questions about the taxman CF1?
Randy, I noticed they didn't have their number of current employees on here. They just got their under additional employees and their salaries.
Right, and it's like 14.33.
Right.
I saw that too. So,
I mean, I know you haven't had a chance to take a look at that. I understand that, but it would have been good if somebody would have been here to answer some of these questions from taxman. And it looked to me, Adam, you might know, it seems to be a little longer than 2 years. When year
Says
four,
here
4 or
16.
5, 6, okay.
well, but if
That's
it,
the completion date.
But that's the,
and we go completion date then, because it's probably gonna be the January of that following year that goes on assessment, and we pay taxes in arrears.
Right.
So, you kind of fumbled that ball to get to the starting line.
Okay.
So completion date, so for example, let's say completion date, it shows it was August of 17. So probably was fully assessed in 18. So first year would have been 19. This is probably year 3 then.
Yeah.
I can get you accurate information on that. And if you want to, we got plenty of time on this. If you're not comfortable with when it comes to the employee count, if you want to
Well,
continue
the
this.
problem with that is
Yeah.
they were surviving on
Yeah.
half our
You can't
quarter.
really judge their.
Yeah.
I understand that, and I mean, I don't have any issue. I'd say they're in substantial compliance, but I always appreciate folks being here to review these things and be able to answer questions with the other two on the bucket here this evening, so. I don't have any problem proceeding unless you guys have some additional questions.
No, you want to we can make a motion to approve this one tonight?
Yes.
Does anybody want to make a motion that we
I'll make a
approve
motion.
tax man?
I'll make the motion that the property owner is in substantial compliance, that would be Taxman Properties, with their request as presented.
And authorize the council president to sign the.
And authorize the council president to sign the CF1.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next one, Genesis Plastics. Now, in these,
So I sign right here. Signature of authorized member.
yes, signature authorized member, and then attested to be by the clerk treasurer.
Okay. Next one.
Apologize. Where did you sign it?
No, that's wrong place. I think it goes in the one.
In the middle?
It's in the middle, Fritz.
So for example, if you found it in compliance, it's the middle. If you found it in non-compliance, you have a hearing, you sign at the bottom. Sorry, I should give more clarification.
I got spoiled at work. They put a little tag right.
Pass out this third to go.
Okay.
Pass out this deal.
Joe wants his hands on it.
Before everybody gets
Somebody
out
walks
here.
out with it.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Pay in 2022, the payments for this year.
Okay, next time we have Genesis Plastics Welding. And we've talked about this in the past, that when they originally, on their original SB1, which was about 9 years ago, 2011, that they had an estimate of what they would be doing. Then they had a drop in the midst of that, but they've come back, and so they don't have numbers that match what they were originally, at least as far as the wage count, because the employee count is down. But as I said, Mr. Ryder is here to answer any questions. But we've also talked that right now it is tough to either hire or retain staff. He's trying to hire some employees. It's not for lack of trying.
Right. Information for the
Yes,
year.
and I was just saying, he's probably got some additional information.
How much longer on their abatement do they have?
He thinks this is last year.
I believe we're on our last year, 10% is of what that is. And this is just, these are tax and information that I've provided in the years past. And I thought I'd give you an update as to where we are. So if you go to page number 3, since 2012, we've invested $4.27 million in the facility and equipment, which of course we do pay taxes on. We've reinvested 100% of all our profits back into the company since 2001. If you go to page 4, please ask questions along the way. Don't let me rush through it too much. Just as a refresher, in 2015, we lost 46% of our business. We have rebounded very well, but in 2020, we stayed flat with the number of employees. So we didn't add employees, but we did at least stay flat. So we do make medical devices. Some of those medical devices are orthopedic devices, so they took a nosedive. Some of the biopharma products that we manufacture increased. So we at least became more of a flat business model, which in COVID times, I feel really good about that. The next page are actually more of the real data, fun facts. Our real estate value, the abatement we received is for the value we had back in 2012, which is $570,000. So that's a fixed number for the life of the abatement. The abatement right now is dropped to the final phase of 10% for 2021. In 2020, our real estate assessed value was $1.899 million as compared to the $570,000 we originally had. So that we are paying 100% of the tax value on $1.329 million. So the only tax abatement we're receiving is on the original $570,000. We do pay property tax. And like I mentioned, the equipment has increased $1.8 million since 2012. In the last 12 months, wages have increased 5.2% or $140,000. Through COVID, we've been able to remain at the same number of employees since 2020, and we're trying to hire since 2019, and we're trying to hire today. You can see the sign up there. We're trying to hire some second shift people. We're trying to hire some setup technicians. And then a fun fact, of the 65 original employees retained since 2012, their wages have increased 41.2% or $724,000 since that time. So those are just some of the data facts that the abatement has provided very well for us, but has shrunk significantly from the time that we started until now. But we're very thankful for what it has been and hope to at least acquire this last little piece before we call it quits. So I appreciate your time. Any questions?
I always appreciate you coming with the information. Yeah, I appreciate it. You've done a good job with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we approve Genesis Plastics Welding. The property owner is in substantial compliance and allow the council president to sign that.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay, the third one then we have is Commerce Industries, doing business with Thursday Pools, Bill Camus, and Bill's here today. So you should see 4 CF1s in your packet, and the reason why is he has 2 separate abatements, one from 2014 and one from 2019.
Go back, can you double check that number?
Yes, 2014 and 2019. And in this particular case, he has 2 separate CF1s, one for real property and one for personal property. So if you look over the upper right-hand corner of the form, you'll see it says CF1, it'll say either real property or personal property. So going back to the one that says the start date of 11/1/14, resolution number 2014-11B, CF1PP, estimated that the value of the equipment would be $200,000, and that actually ended up being $357,685. And the current number of employees was 12, additional employees 4, making it 16, and in fact has a total of 88 employees. So the salaries, the wages is about 10 times what was originally initially considered. On the, again, 2014 11B resolution, the SB or the CF1 real property, the values upon of the improvements estimated to be $500,000. It came in at $902,394. Next, then moving on to the third form, being CF1PP for resolution 2018-5A, start date of March 1 of 19. Estimated value of the improvements, $250,000. Actual value was $404,901. Again, the employee count's the same as I just said. And then finally, the CF1 real property for under resolution 2018-5A. Estimated cost of the improvement $700,000. Actual value $740,979. So it exceeded every number. Apparently people are buying swimming pools, is that right, Bill?
Got tax refund.
And nothing else to do. That's your best counsel.
You know, we'll say that we're fortunate why it's been that good. When COVID hit, we actually laid everybody, they laid them off. We sent them all home for 2 or 3 weeks. And amazingly, 2 weeks later, the government comes up with PPP money and literally paid you all back plus some. So we're just, we were fortunate. The numbers were better than we expected. We can't say that we made that happen. I mean, it was just a huge portion of luck, I'm sure, but we appreciate what you guys have done with this. We sat up here twice and got 2 abatements, and you gave them to us both times. And fortunately, the last 2 editions, we didn't come back for more because we felt, we've got to be that kid that grew up finally and, can now support themselves. So we're glad to be here and keep contributing and hope for the best. So, I mean, as you can tell, we've got, honestly, I think we have 18 pools a day going out. So it's just crazy. Well, again, we appreciate everything. So thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Bill?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the request from Commerce Industries as presented and indicate they are, property owner is in substantial compliance and allow the council president to sign.
Can I get a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, thank you.
You got 3 documents to sign.
Yeah, I see that.
Watch out.
You gotta watch out.
4.
I think it's 4.
2 PPs, 2 RPs.
Okay. That makes sense. I thought it was falling through.
You were just testing us to see if we're okay.
Maybe come over here, I'm gonna be even accurate.
Yeah.
This is when we need Jeopardy music on while I'm signing this.
Hey, Bill. I apologize in advance for kind of putting you on the spot, but I know you're ready to answer this. While he's signing, we've had some folks come in and express some concerns about just some of the smell and other thing. I know you're very well aware and you're working on that. Can you give the rest of us an update on where that stands?
I'd be glad to. In fact, that was something I was going to mention at the end when you asked just for.
That way you don't have to stay for the whole thing.
No, I'm going to stay anyway. But no, we're very much aware of it. Obviously, so a couple years ago, we committed to a thermal oxidizer. The process we have is a fiberglass and a polyester resin. Fiberglass doesn't smell, no odor to it. Polyester resin does smell. And it's kind of like the auto body is what people would maybe relate it to. It is a sweet odor smell. About 2 years ago, we committed to a thermal oxidizer to get rid of that smell. And it also gets rid of the VOC because the polyester resin is a VOC. So, that's what goes into the atmosphere. It's lighter than air, depletes the ozone, contributes to global warming. We are not required to have a thermal oxidizer. Most people don't do it because they're expensive, they're complicated, there's a lot of operating to them. But we committed 2 years ago, actually received one. About the last year, it's been in operation, but on and off. They are very complex, finicky machines, but we have been operating it. Now the bigger issue is, though, we kind of outgrew it. So we actually purchased another one about not a year, maybe 10 months ago. And the biggest part of it is due to arrive in 7 weeks, actually. So once we get that one, we get a biggest part of it. It won't be all of it, but we should be able to eliminate any odor as soon as it's installed. The other thing, it does have more pieces and parts that'll come that will eventually get rid of all the VOCs also. Because not only do we want to be good neighbors, not cause any odor, we absolutely want to get rid of VOCs, if we can possibly do that, if technology allows it, which it does. So odor-wise, we should be able to get it tackled here in the very near future. And we tried to reach out to anybody, we wanted to make the comment, if anybody contacts you, please let us know, because we'll be more than welcome to show them what we're doing and what we're trying. And, it goes without saying, it meets all the laws and EPA and IDEM and all of that stuff. But, that's not enough. We want to be a good neighbor, and that means no odor. So we are committed to make that happen.
I appreciate that.
It's just let us be open book. If you've got somebody that's hard set or has a real concern, because I got to believe they're concerned about the health. That's number one. We want to make sure that they know, no, there's no health hazard. Obviously, the employees are sitting right there by it. You can't be doing that. But then number two, let them know we want to get rid of it also. And it should have only been occasional that they smelled anything. And by the way, it's not a burning plastic smell or a cooking hot plastic smell. It's the sweet smell that you would smell if it's coming.
Sweet, burning, obviously unwelcome. And I know that you're very aware of it. I also know from the time sitting up here, you guys have done easily more than the minimum when you've needed to. And so appreciate it. So,
no, thank you. And honestly, we will, if whatever it takes.
Right. Well, I appreciate your responsiveness, and if you can keep Adam and Joe, which I know you guys are working together on your progress with that, I appreciate it.
Well, and then even to extend it one more step, we're going to be standing up here in the very near future, hopefully asking to rezone some more land and annex part of the land we have to the east of us into Fortville. And we gave Adam our commitment. We won't come up here and ask you guys for one more thing until we think that thing's taken care of and, physically be able to go over there and look and see and, see it operating and smell and know. So truth is, we'll be up here again asking for something, but not until we get that one cured. That's our own, and we've communicated with Adam about that, so.
I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Absolutely. I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys.
Are we offline now?
No.
Oh, it's still taking?
I just put it to the side so you guys wouldn't be sitting there watching.
Oh. I just. Okay, moving on. President of the council to read proclamation of Arbor Days. Ooh, joy. Here we go. To whom it may present this greetings. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees, and this holiday, called Arbor Day, was the first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate temperatures, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide wildlife habitat. And whereas trees increases property values, enhances the economy, vitality of business areas, and beautify our neighborhoods. And whereas for 16 years, the town of Fortville has met the Tree City USA standards of the tree ordinance, community tree program, and Arbor Day observation. And whereas the town of Fortville has provided a tree awareness program available to residents, trees will be planted at Memorial Park. The tree seedlings will be distributed on the date to the residents of the town of Fortville. Now, therefore, I, Frederick Fentz, President of the Town Council of Fortville, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2021 to be Arbor Day. Thank you. I guess I just.
No pressure.
Thanks to you guys and Heath for doing that. I know it's always a pretty popular thing and appreciate that.
How many trees do we have to pass out?
I'm not sure how many they've got.
They saplings, do they call them seedlings or saplings?
Yeah, they're seedlings or, well, they're probably about 2 foot tall. We usually do, 200, 300 trees, and they usually go pretty quick. This year, we're gonna be giving them away at the community center out there where Heath's office is set up, rather than coming into the town hall. People go out there and pick them up. I know Heath and Carrie are working on an Arbor Day event for next year to try to make it a lot bigger event like he used to have before things kind of slowed down. So looking forward to next year's event.
But I see that they're red bud and tulip tree. Is that what it was?
I did not see it.
Yes,
I don't
that's what I heard. Yeah.
take more than I do.
I planted one at the side yard 15 years ago,
Did you?
and it's
What'd you get?
It's probably
a tulip
about
or-
8 foot tall. It doesn't grow very fast. It's a slow grow or whatever. We got
Maybe an oak tree or something.
no, it's not that. It's like a dogwood or something.
Oh, yeah, the dogwoods. They won't get a whole lot bigger.
No, it's grows slow. Okay. All right, moving on to unfinished business, non-traditional vehicle ordinance. I know that Tanya and Patrick and Alex have put in a lot of time and effort on getting this ordinance correct and writing it. Does anybody have any questions on the ordinance that they put together? Okay. Does anybody from the town want to talk about the OVEs, non-traditional vehicle ordinance?
Paul Cook, 719 North Bristol Drive.
I just have a question, because Pat had posted the ordinance before, and it got tabled because Tanya said the wording wasn't right. Will the new version get posted? I don't know what words changed.
It really wasn't, it was a speed limit. Well, that just recently was today, but it was just, not referring to, I'm trying to remember the trail. If the trail wasn't marked for snowmobile, you couldn't get on it. It was more of a wording thing than it was a,
I'm just wondering if it would get posted again before the second reading.
yeah, we can post it.
So that
Sure.
if
Sure.
people are opposed to something, they have an opportunity to study
Sure.
it. That's all I have.
Sure.
Put that on our police department Facebook page for all to read.
Any discussion or anything?
This
This is, what remind us, Alex, is 3A? Is that what this
It
was?
should be 4A now, 'cause this will be the first reading. if you-
Oh, that's
Is it
right.
first read? Yeah, first reading tonight.
All right.
I'll make the motion to pass ordinance number 2021 4A for the amendment to the Town of Fortville Code of Ordinance on non-traditional vehicle regulations as written.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it, thank you.
That was first reading, so,
Yeah.
obviously, Alex, you wanna, as we'll be posting that, you wanna just real quick let folks know what that means, if it's just the first reading.
Yeah, all ordinances take 2 readings by state law, and so changes can be made. This isn't anything final. It'll have to be come up in front of the council again at a future meeting, and it will only become part of the town code if it passes on that second reading.
So that'll go on the agenda for the next meeting,
That's when you
right?
Yeah. So we don't need to sign this?
No, just one second.
Thank you. Joe, reports?
I don't really have much this evening, just kind of give you a little bit of an update on Main Street. Contractors are progressing pretty nicely. They've run into a few snags, found 3 fuel tanks so far. They got the last ones out today and got the storm structure set that was kind of being held up due to those tanks. There's going to be, I don't want to say there's going to be a change order, but there is a little bit of predicting, I guess. They've got some costs associated with that. They typically don't set change orders until the end of the project because there could be some cost savings as well. So we're trying to keep track of those as we go.
So if we've got 3 tanks in the first section, so we're probably more than likely gonna have maybe. could have
Actually,
about
one
12
of them,
tanks
2 of them was
total.
down in front of the,
The ATA.
yeah, the ATA down there in front
There
of
were
where
3 total
Chapel's
on all of Main Street.
lumber used to be.
Okay.
I saw them getting hauled off today.
Yeah. I've got pictures of them. Sure.
Well, I have been super impressed with the contractors. They're the nicest guys. They're all supporting Main Street businesses. One said some foul language while I had kids inside the ice cream store, and I went out there and was all mom, like, no, we don't do that on Main Street. They all, oh, something. They're real sweet.
They've had great weather too.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to rain maybe tomorrow.
Snow.
Snow. That's better. Snow, they can keep working.
They won't work in that
They can keep
either.
working snow.
So one thing I had a question about, and I don't know if they came back to you, but they had all those posts out, green tags, pink tags, and we were told green was light posts and pink were trees.
So you were the one.
No, it was Larry. And Larry in Maduro in Maine said, so you put a tree right in front of our door. And the guy goes, well, that's what it says here. And he goes, okay, so when you leave, I can move these?
They first staked those off of like some CAD drawings, the original plan, and the architect had some additional drawings with the measurements on it. And I know they had those midday, and they'll make sure they'll lay everything out according to the plans. The trees and the lights were strategically placed due to the photometrics of the lights and everything, because it looks like maybe some of the lights might not be exactly centered either. But the reason for that is the way they did, like I said, the photometrics, the big circle of light to try to light up everything as even as they could. And then when you start putting trees in the mix, and it starts to take away from that as well. We did, I can't remember, there might have been a street light or a tree that we shoved over just a couple of feet, maybe 4 feet, just to line it up even on the building. I think it was your building and the one next door. Instead of having the tree right in front of one door, if we went over, it was like right between the 2 doors or something.
So
We can't
scoot it down
really.
A little bit, can we scoot it down just a little bit?
No. It's got to stay really close to what the original design is. And the thing is, we were talking when you're up there, those buildings are so narrow and there's so many doors that there's no way to really miss them all and make everything look right on Main Street. I remember some of the conversations we had in the stakeholders meeting early on. There's issues with doors, there's issues with windows, there's people that didn't want the trees that's going to be blocking their signs. So there's so many different variables that, there's unfortunately there's no way we're going to be able to make them all work. Exactly, we'll do our best. But I'm very pleased as well. They're doing a good job. I wish they were staying more in section 1 and kind of not spreading out as far, but it's working. They're down there during the day when there's not as many people shopping and on Main Street, and that's just helping them to progress the project a little faster. So I'm very pleased with it.
Thank you.
I had
Oh, sorry.
a question on the bricks that they were removing. Somebody put a picture on Facebook where they got one. Do you know how many bricks there will be, and will everybody that wants one get a?
We're not saving the bricks. I mean, that would really slow the project down if we're going to have to start separating bricks out from.
So they're throwing the bricks away?
Yeah, they're all.
The developers, they're all gone?
I don't know that there are that many that they found in front of our store anyway.
I don't.
Larry, you might ask Larry at Maduro, he grabbed a few that were out there.
Yeah. Muncie is full, everything underneath Muncie's all brick. And that's probably what that was at one time.
And they're not the flat brick like you see today. They're square
Yeah.
and long. So
Yeah.
Well,
we've used them around. We've had some around here for door stops and stuff that we've done.
I'll go out there and dig one out. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Talk to the contractors if you want to break in.
Yeah, I'd like to say if you want.
I almost did today after the exercise. I see
You should.
They might work with you, but they're not going to separate.
Right. Okay. I'll go through their dumpster. Where's their dumpster at?
They're putting them in a dump truck.
Oh, no.
If I see one, I'll grab one for you.
Thank you.
Adam, you have anything for us tonight?
I don't, unless you have any questions.
I have a question for you. How is the facade program coming?
For the record, I'm Adam Zaplikowski, the Planning and Building Director. It's going well. So the grant was awarded by Okra. So the next step in the process is, I believe most of the grant acceptance paperwork has been sent back to Okra. And then we'll be able to soon fill out and sign a contract with the architect. And then it will go out to bid soon thereafter. So the process is a little bit slower than what I had originally anticipated because we're linked with Greenfield. But they should still, the bottom line is they should still be starting construction on the repairs probably sometime in the summer, maybe late summer. So the good news is everything's moving well.
That's exciting. I appreciate it.
I got some questions for you on the MBAH thing.
Sure.
Since the scope of the project has changed so drastically, I mean, you've probably been in conversation with them about those changes and what's going to happen with that, but it was brought to my attention about discussion about Ohio Street again. So I want to ask you what, if there was discussions with MBAH and what that amounted to about Ohio Street. is there talk about reopening it or?
Well, I know that, Mr. Farrell had called me, inquiring about Ohio and to see, as I understood him, assuming I understood him correctly, I think he wanted Ohio Street to go through to Madison. So the intersection would be really close to the railroad tracks, which is the reason that it was cut off to begin with. And so the concern is if vehicles are heading southbound on Madison, that in order to make a left in, they may have to stop on the tracks to do that. So that was probably the reason it was closed initially. So to open that back up, bottom line is it would take NDOT approval to do that. The second thing is in terms of the senior housing versus the workforce housing. Think of it as a project that's being done in phases. So the first phase is the workforce. That's what was funded through the tax credit program. And then hopefully the second phase will be this senior housing.
So they only presented that, the first phase?
They presented both. Well, they presented, the original plan was they would have wanted to do both at the same time. But the funding for the tax credits were from two separate pots of money. So they got funding for the workforce. And they came really close for the senior, but they didn't get the senior. So they're gonna try the next round to do that. So I wouldn't say that the project is on hold by any stretch. The senior housing is on hold. But one thing that we could potentially look at is, I understand the concerns, and I share those concerns too, that this was presented to the community as not just workforce housing, but senior as well. And I do think that if they didn't build the senior component, that we would be shortchanged, frankly. In fact, just a quick side note, they did ask me last year, because the funding for the senior side of things was it was more competitive, and they knew that going into it. And they said, can we do all workforce on it? I said, no. If you're gonna do that, that needs to go back to council. That's a big substantial change. You guys presented this as workforce and senior. It's a great mix. So they said, okay, we won't do that. What we could potentially do, and we'll group Alex in here, is they're going to be seeking a tax abatement for a portion of the workforce. And we might be able, in order to put some teeth into it, to try to get that senior housing built, is we could do something in the tax abatement saying that, well, you're not gonna get the full abatement or the abatement at all if this building isn't built within a couple of years. So I think there's different ways that we can do that. Do you think conceptually that might be something that we can do?
Yes.
It is concerning that they mentioned that to you. That's why I think it's important that we do put something in place so it becomes.
Yeah, I think, we talked about zoning, is that the right mechanism? But the zoning was already approved with, it just shows that they have the ability to do senior, they have the ability to do this. But I think the tax abatement on the town's behalf is a better mechanism to try to push them to make sure that we get what they presented to us.
So realistically, the scope hasn't changed, it's just they're doing it in phases.
So did they approach you about using Ohio Street is that?
So the plan for Ohio is the same, that nothing's changed with that. It's the same thing that was presented to you all, same thing that when the zoning went to the plan commission. So with Ohio Street, they never planned on bringing it out to Madison. What they wanted to do, and it's shown in the concept plan that was approved, is they showed some parking along it, and they had talked to us. They said, well, since Ohio Street doesn't go through, could it be vacated? The problem with vacating it is actually, it's not a bad idea, but the problem is in this scenario, when you do a vacation of right of way, the north half is going to go to the north half owner, south half is going to go to the south. In this case, it would go to the railroad. So what we may end up doing is what's called a use agreement that would have to be approved by you guys. that would basically say it's still on paper, it's town right of way, but we're gonna improve it, we're gonna plow it, we're gonna take care of it. That's one option. That's probably the preferred option.
And that was all in the drawing.
And that's all in the
For
drawings.
planning commission
Yeah.
and council.
So there's nothing,
I just thought that was all conceptual, so that might have been my misunderstanding, because
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't specific about where that property sat anyway, or where it ended out in the middle. It was never specific. So, it was all conceptual to me.
Right.
So I didn't really realize they would even use that road as parking, if that's in fact what they're doing.
yeah, and again, I'd say it'd be, a different scenario if Ohio Street were to go out to Madison, but the likelihood of that is, in my opinion, is almost zero.
When NDOT rebuilt that road.
I don't think it needs to. I can see it
It
going
doesn't need to.
eastbound.
But what will be nice,
Eastbound only.
actually, what will be nice is, if you recall from that concept plan, is you'll be able to drive into the project, and it's gonna feel like a city street, town street as you get in there. It'll be privately owned and maintained, so we don't have to plow it. It's gonna feel like a town street. And then, let's say you're pulling in, you can head north, and you can go down this other street, it's gonna feel like a city street, and then you can take Ohio, and it will go back to out here.
Yeah.
So it'll still kind of be it'll be part of our grid network, so to speak. And, that was one thing that we wanted from them, was to do something a little bit more urban, less of a suburban kind of apartment complex. So that's where we're at.
I
But
think that was one of Bob's concerns, was that if they weren't committed to that senior living and somebody else bought that piece of property, how would they access all that they were gonna access? Because it kind of cuts them off if they're not accessing it from Madison. So I understand why he would say that, but
yeah, what we'll have to do, it's a good point. What we'll have, because it's an interesting point, is let's say for sake of argument, that there was a commercial building that went up along Madison instead of the senior housing. We probably wouldn't want to have, you might be able to do a right in, right out curb cut, but let's say they were going to get their main access from this internal road system. When they go to plat, when this Madison Village goes to plat, which they plan on doing in the next couple months, we want to make sure that they've got easements in place, which, even though they'll still own the land, it's a public access easement so that anybody can go through there without issues. So that would solve that problem.
So you won't be cutting Ohio Street off from the front property. They still will be able to access that also, right?
Well, they won't be able to access it. They will
From
not.
Madison, I
from
realize,
Madison.
but they'll be able to access it from the front property to go.
just not off Madison. They'll access it the same way that
They
the
won't be
workforce housing
putting
will access it. Yeah.
so much parking and dumpsters out there that nobody can get to it, right?
Right, it'll still be, you'll be able to travel
Okay,
on it.
so if somebody besides this company buys that, they still will be able to use that, right?
Correct,
Okay,
correct. And plans can always change, that's
Yeah,
for
I
sure, but,
yeah,
as of right now, yes, that's the thinking.
okay.
Yeah.
And it will have to be okay to be changed, right?
Right,
Okay.
right, so the, one thing on that point, since you brought it, it's a good question, is, if somebody were to purchase the senior living property, anybody, and they wanted to do something different, that's the beauty of that PUD, is you got that concept plan, and you could say, well, no, that you're showing, this plan shows senior housing, and we don't want to change that. If it's gonna sit there for a number of years until we get that, and so be it. Or if a developer comes in and says, well, I want to do a commercial retail, something different, and you all feel comfortable with that, then you can go in that direction. But, so lastly, the last steps on the workforce piece is, they're not done yet. So think of it this way, there's basically 3 different steps. There's the zoning piece, which is done. Then they have to go to the planning commission for the site plan approval, concept elevations. As the process goes on, it's more detailed.
All right.
So you're going from zoning to concept plan, concept elevations, and then when that's approved by the planning commission, then they'll be able to submit construction documents for review by town officials. So the first third is done, but they've got the other 2/3 to do.
Do you know why they were granted Because I thought the Stellar grant required commercial on the bottom floor. Did they make an exception for that?
No,
That was what we required on Broadway.
For the for Forza, I remember we were looking to do that,
Okay.
because that's in our,
That's only for the comprehensive plan on Broadway, not Madison.
Okay, so that's Fortville's requirement, not
for
the
Broadway.
Stellar.
oh, on Broadway.
Okay, just on Broadway.
And Main Street, yeah, Broadway, Main. Yeah,
Okay.
but, yeah, lastly, what I've been learning, and for everybody's benefit too, is, sometimes when they do these multifamily projects, whether they're through tax credits, because they love to take advantage of those tax credit programs, or if it's, privately funded, and it's, let's say it's market rate, it is difficult to do a mixed-use building, apparently, because the financing is different. A lot of times the lenders, they say, well, we don't want to do commercial on the first floor, because then we got to do a different lending structure on that, and we have to do a different lending structure on the multifamily. So it can be tricky. And of course, as a town, that's what we want. We want to have more of a mixed use environment. But I've seen this problem come up time and time again when they talk about apartments. So just be aware of that if there are other apartment complexes that are proposed in other parts of town, we'll have to be cognizant of what the market realities are and of the lending requirements as well. So.
And was it part of that agreement with them to do a crossing light or lane there for the Windstone people to be able to get across Broadway?
It wasn't part of the agreement, but we are looking at, as part of the Broadway Road Diet project, is we're trying to bring that path at least up to Ohio, right?
That was our desire, but right now
Where did they stop over
they
here?
stopped us over by the library. Pretty much any is 4 lane.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't go beyond that. But
Okay.
there's a possibility that we can still try to do some of that and, maybe some local funds. But
The other day when I was coming over here to sign paperwork, I think I drove past a runner that was kind of stuck over trying to cross, and teenagers walking along Broadway, and I just thought, this is really not safe.
I think my opinion is that should be a priority at some point to get more, a safer walking or running connection from this Windstone and Colonial Village area into the downtown there. I think everybody would appreciate that, so. You just gotta find the money.
Keep digging up Main Street, maybe we'll find some.
That's right, maybe,
just in case I failed to mention this earlier, in a few council meetings back, we made the offer on property down here on Broadway. We did get an accepted offer on that, so that is moving forward. I can close within the next 60 days or so.
Chief?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I got you guys the monthly report for March. The big thing I noticed between last month and this month is our calls for service went up about 25%. And you can attest to that as it being spring break and warmer weather, and the mask mandate was lifted, so more people are out and about causing chaos. I am proud to say that I sent a couple officers to the National Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health and Criminal Justice Summit. That was good for them, good for everybody. Kind of helps the department continue to grow and work with that CIT type training, critical or crisis intervention training. So we have a couple more officers have a little extra understanding of how to do that stuff. And then I got a letter this last week by the Law Enforcement Training Board. We had to send, it's new this year, we had to send in our use of force policies for them to review to ensure that we're within the national policies. We are fully accredited. We are fully in compliance with the national use of force policies. And we now are authorized to apply for any law enforcement grants, federal or state, because we have that certification through them. And other than that, I don't have much. Unless you got questions.
Where are we at on filling our spot?
Filling our spot. We are down to 5 applicants who are in the background phase. The background investigators have till the end of next week to complete everything, home visits and employment and see what we can find. And then the following Tuesday, they were all told up front on the day one of their background that the following Tuesday we will be doing interviews, which I've invited Tanya to attend and help out with that. It'll be a panel interview and a peer review. So, a couple of the officers, Tanya, and they'll kind of pick and choose who they like the best. So
Thank you.
that's where we're at. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Alex, you have anything for us?
I don't. Unless you have any questions for me?
Questions?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
They-
Somebody got that.
Yeah.
Public comment. Town Council, Libby? Tanya?
Oh, good.
Becky?
Got all my answers.
Robert?
Only thing I have is we're gonna go back to that original date for the recycle. We're gonna be able to do it either with or without the grant funding. So what was that, June, she wasn't ready for that, I'm sorry. June 19th, I think. Let me check that real quick.
Is that Fortville? In
Yes.
Fortville?
Yes.
It's
June 19th.
electronic and everything
June
again?
19th, yes, and we're gonna discuss the paper shred portion, which I think we're gonna be able to proceed with. And it's gonna be out at the old medical building, the township, next to the fire department where we did it once before, so.
Do you have times on
It's gonna be from 9 till noon.
All right. I'm glad you brought that up because I got the mattresses that linger around because people don't know they gotta wrap them. I've got mattress bags at work. I'd be willing to donate them, but I don't know where we would store them.
that? You know what? If you could deliver those up here when people call in and look for something and we talk to them on the phone, tell them why their mattress didn't get picked up, it'd be good to have those off.
Okay, I'll bring a roll up and I'll just get the big ones so they can wrap those up.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yep. And then we're gonna do up the cards and such, and that way we can put it out on
Okay.
the
yeah,
town
great.
page and everything.
Perfect.
And again, just the plug for Newco Metals is accepting cardboard for our Fortville residents, just gotta take it to them.
Nice.
So I've already done it twice and super easy. Just gotta be clean, can't have all the packing materials in it.
Can I get a motion to approve and sign the
I
vouchers?
make a motion to approve the signed vouchers.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
I make a motion we adjourn at 7:58.
Yeah, I second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need two, I need a signature. He didn't sign it.
Did you not sign this?
I think I only signed one signature.
You know what?
I remember you walking around.
Down south.
I like to read it. Working all the time.
Oh, is she going to this, Missy?
Yeah.
Clerk treasurer store?
She already went.
That's already went.
Was she
I
in?
think she's going to another one. I think
Oh,
she
okay.
told me